Hey, what's up everybody, Moki F1 here, and welcome to my predictions and expectations for the 2024 Mexico City Grand Prix. So if you don't know what we do first here, we do a quick little track walk type of thing, so you guys understand the circuit a little bit better, and that helps give some context to, why I think certain teams would be good here, why certain drivers are good here, and so on. So let's get to it. So first and foremost comes this first DRS on the straight here. So this is one of the few passing opportunities on the track, and it's why people don't love this track very much, because it's very fast but it's hard to pass on. So this track, this first turn is very, very wide, so it actually gives decent passing opportunity, but then it closes up here, so it makes it really, really tricky. We see a lot of incidents around here. And then we have the second DRS here, which is really interesting because it's another one that's hard to pass on, but even harder because it has less room. You see you got some runoff there, but going across the track to pass, we saw last race, that doesn't exactly work. So it's very easy to block people off, start getting DRS trains going, and that's why people tend to not like this track. But if you get a good run off of that turn, going into this turn, since this turn's so wide, then closes up, it's a pretty good passing point. And then this is a very Circuit of the Americas type turn right here. Nice and sweeping. Not really a passing point, but And then it tightens up, but then goes into an even faster sweeping bend. Very nice little section, probably the best section of the track. Third DRS point. And this one is not easy to pass on, because starts wide, then really tightens up. It's a very fast turn as well. You can go in gear 4, and it's very easy to go into one of the many runoff areas around here. And passing around here, as Max Verstappen learned years ago, not a thing. So as you can tell, there are a few passing points, but for the most part, yeah, people aren't passing on this track. It's a very pace-oriented track. By that I mean, generally whoever qualifies the highest and does the best strategy, manages their tires the best. That's really what this race is about, even though it is a pretty big and fast track. Now, getting into the actual predictions on that note, I think Ferrari will also be good here. I mean, their pace won't, well, we've seen pace magically go away from Ferrari before, but I think until the end of the season, Ferrari are going to be pretty fast, and Charles Leclerc has been great around this track. Every single time the Ferrari's fast on this track, he's been really great, so I think he's probably due for a pole here, at the very least, and I think the Ferraris won't necessarily run away with it, because Verstappen's very good at this track as well, but I do think the Ferraris will be out in front once again. Another note of Verstappen, he's very, very successful at this track. He's great at this track, and just the raw pace of the Red Bull, we saw, especially even just straight line speed in the Lando Norris fight at Circuit of the Americas. That car is still very quick, even in a straight line. There's a lot of straight lines on this circuit, so yeah, I think he's definitely gonna be in contention. But as for the McLarens, I do think they'll probably be on the back foot again. That would be my assumption. Just because if they weren't quick at Circuit of the Americas, and God knows the straight line speed wasn't great either, they're probably not going to be very fast here, unfortunately. And of course, we only have one race to go off of with Piastri, but he wasn't very quick here last year, and then Norris has been not, unquick at this circuit, but he hasn't been one of the stars of this circuit. That's for Mercedes. I just think they're going to maintain their fourth fastest. I mean, I don't think they're going to crack the top 3 teams, other than being faster than Sergio Perez. But I do also think Lewis might not have his mojo back. I mean, he's a very tenured driver. People like that, they tend to come back quicker from bad weekends, but I don't know if his mojo will be completely back. He might still not to do too great in qualifying, maybe be decent in the race. He has been pretty successful at this track as well. But again, since this is a very pace-oriented circuit, you need to qualify really well, which Lewis has not been doing great. As for Liam Lawson, I do think he's going to impress yet again. I think he's going to keep his great pace and keep his cool head, all that good stuff. But I do think, as far as Tsunoda goes, I think he'll chill out a little bit. We saw this a lot with Daniel, when Daniel was his teammate. If Tsunoda had an off weekend or something, and he got a little hot-tempered, the next race he usually tends to be pretty quiet and just chills. I think it'll be a pretty quiet race from Tsunoda, but then Lawson is just going to be there, and I think he's probably going to outpace Tsunoda. And just generally speaking, I think Lawson is going to push a little harder. And I think Colapinto will continue to impress. I mean, the guy's just been on fire. He's riding great momentum. And of course, at any time, he could start showing his flaws. He's got to show flaws eventually. Every driver has flaws. But I think his sheer pace has been really solid. This isn't too difficult of a circuit. So, I mean, I think if he just qualifies well, he'll just be off to the races, quite literally. And as for Albon, though, I think this is going to be another scrappy weekend, especially due to the fact that Colapinto and his pace is very, very similar, so they're probably going to qualify quite close to each other. But then Albon, I think, is probably going to try and overdrive his car to try and get some overtakes done and try and better Colapinto. That's just my assumption based on what I've seen so far. I think he's under a lot of pressure right now, and I think it's going to continue to show because, I mean, the Circuit of the Americas race was just not great, and even in previous races we saw the pressure getting to him. Now, the Haas car will likely be good here. I mean, it was really decent at Circuit of the Americas. No reason to believe it won't be good here. But it probably won't blow anybody's hair back. But also, I've noticed that Kevin Magnussen, he really just wasn't very quick at the circuit. Hulkenberg is very plug-and-play. He has a very few amount of circuits he's not very good at. But Magnussen, definitely not very good at this circuit. And speaking of the car I'm driving right now, I think Alpine will be kind of meh. Pierre showed a lot of potential last race, but I don't know if it'll carry over to this race. I mean, the car, I guess, is getting a little bit better, and Gasly obviously has the better handle on the car, but I still think they'll kind of just be whatever. And Aston Martin as well, I think they'll also just drown here. Alonso's going to do his best, but Stroll's going to be nowhere, and Alonso's going to lose places. He's going to qualify well and then lose places in the race because that car is just not a very good race car right now. And just so I cross everybody off of the list, Kick Sauber, I guess, might do okay. They said that the upgrades were a little bit better. They just got a little unlucky in the last weekend, so maybe they'll be better than they have been, but I doubt they're going to be anywhere other than the back of the grid. Let's get to who I have for my top 5. So I do have Charles Leclerc winning the race, in my opinion. Max can easily take it because he is Max Verstappen and he's good at this track, but the Ferrari's pace was just absurd last weekend. It's hard to believe they won't be good here too. And Charles Leclerc is obviously just the master of pace. I mean, he is probably the quickest driver other than Max. So I think the car underneath him and the fact that he's good at this track and he's a very, very fast qualifier means he'll probably win this one. But I do think Max is going to be second, but maybe not a close second. And actually, let's give him his flowers. Carlos Sainz, I think, will actually make the podium here. Decent here in the past. His pace last weekend was pretty close to Charles Leclerc's, even though he was consistently on the back foot, but also he's been seeing more scrappy aggression as well, which is really appreciated. Although, when it comes to tangling with Max, I don't know if Carlos will be able to get it done, but who knows. The raw pace of the Ferrari might take him to second place over Max, but I do think Max is going to put up a hell of a fight this time around. And here I actually have Norris outside of the top 3. I think the McLaren's upgrades weren't too great. They really didn't help them at Circuit of the Americas, so I don't see how they'll help them here. Maybe the upgrades will work better in other tracks, like Interlagos, where it's not quite as fast. As far as Mexico goes, I don't think he's going to do all that great here, and he hasn't done that well in the past either, so I'll just put him in 4th here. And then I think Piastri will probably be P5, I guess. It's really hard to say due to his pace issues. I mean, if the McLaren is really bad here, we could see him all the way in P6, but I don't see him going any lower than that. That would be a big shock. I mean, as far as Sergio Perez goes, I mean, I want him to do well at his home race, but actually he's not that good at this circuit if you go back. It'd be great if he won here or something, but I mean, I don't see. But obviously, I still think he'll be in the top 10 at the very least. Alright, and that is about it for my predictions for the 2024 Mexico Grand Prix. What do you guys think? Do you think Ferrari are going to keep on it with their winning ways? Do you think Max is going to be urgent enough to actually take the win? Do you guys think McLaren are going to bounce back from their weekend last time around? And do you think there'll be any surprises? That's all I have for now. Thank you for watching.